John aka Chicken Fillets here. Now before we begin on my Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince first impressions, well, I'd like to say thank you to Square Enix for providing me with a review code for the Nintendo Switch. I am absolutely ecstatic to yet again work with Square Enix. Now enough of that, let's get on to my first impressions of this Dragon Quest game.
It focuses on the character of Pizarro. Now, Pizarro is actually the antagonist from Dragon Quest IV. Now, our protagonist is half demon, half human, and he has been cursed, and he can't fight monster kind. But in replacement of this, he uses monsters. He becomes a monster trainer, similar to the likes of Pokemon. So Pizarro is now out for revenge, with his monsters behind him to try and overthrow his father, who is the king of the underworld. Now also with this, you'll get more backstory fleshed out with the likes of Rose as well, who is an important character to Pizarro. Now as this is a first impressions video, this means that I have not yet completed the story. Now, I will say for Dragon Quest fans, you will be able to sink your teeth into this one, and I can imagine that this would be a story that you'll absolutely love. But I won't lie to you, when I started this game, it was very slow paced, and I felt that the story just wasn't grabbing me whatsoever. However, I did stick with the story a bit longer, and it started to open up, which was a good thing, because if it kept on this path, I was really going to put this game down. But thankfully, a good few hours into the game and the story started to pick up for me. However, the feedback I'm seeing online for this game, some people absolutely adore this and is calling this game incredible, which, you know, credit when credit is due. However, with my personal opinion, it hasn't grasped me yet. And I don't know, maybe it's because of the silent protagonist trope, but when you're in battle, for example, and you capture a monster and you hear Pizarro's voice, it really doesn't match the character model. I find it really weird. Now, speaking of voice acting, I will say that the voice acting in this game is amazing, using the British accents in this, Scottish accents, etc. It is really well played out, and it does give characters true life to them. So for example, Rose, who is the companion, has a really bright, bubbly voice, and it really does suit her character model. Also, the voice actor for Toil and Trouble, he is the perfect match for this character. You can tell the shifty tone that this character has. Now, you'll notice that I made a similarity to Pokemon. So yes, this is a monster collecting game where you'll be collecting the monsters from, well, the Dragon Quest series to be in your party and fight on your behalf. So during and in between the story beats, you'll be out in the field in different locations, capturing monsters to bolster your team. And these locations are very, very colourful. However, there was times where I felt there was a lot of empty negative space where there could have been a bit more to flesh out the world. But you know what? The further you get into the game, you will see a lot more places with better character to it. So for example, the candy area where everything is made out of sweeties. Delicious. Now the game bolsters a cel-shaded look to it. And if you know me, I do like my cel-shaded graphics in games. What I will say with this, however, is I did mainly play it on handheld mode, so I can't really give you any sort of impressions with it being on a large screen. Now, when it comes to the battle system, it is turn-based. Now, one thing about this combat system is I really didn't feel involved with it, and it felt like I just want to rush the battles. Now luckily there is an option which appears later on where you can speed up battles and put auto battle on. It did really feel like you just hit the fight button and everything is done for you. Now I know that you can put tactics onto different monsters in your team, however I would have liked the choice to be able to pick specific moves for each of the monsters in your team. It's not a deal breaker in general because it could be a battle system that you would fall in love with, but for me, I like to have that choice there. Now, one thing that I'm unfortunately going to have to be negative about here is the music. Now, when it comes to music, music is a big factor in many games that I play. And if the music is not good, well, I'm going to be turned away from a game. Now, I know that the norm with Dragon Quest games is having MIDI soundtracks, but when you had the likes of Dragon Quest XI S on the Nintendo Switch, where they took the MIDI soundtrack and orchestrated it, I would have thought that they would have gone for a more orchestrated sound. Now, again, I know this is a throwback title to the likes of Dragon Quest IV, but I would have liked to seen them coming away from MIDI tracks because honestly, it could be really, really harsh to the ears, especially when it comes to the likes of the boss battles. I felt that the guitar sounds in this was just so harsh on my ears. Another thing with this as well, when a battle finishes, there's a lot of negative noise. Now, what I mean by this is, well, there's no fanfare at all. And again, I'm not a big Dragon Quest fan, so this could be the norm, but I would have liked to see, when you finish a battle, that there is a fanfare, not just that, and then dead silence for a few seconds. It just didn't feel right. And honestly, that's just me being very particular about how I like music in games, how I like music in general, because if it is harsh to my ears, it is going to turn me away. However, with everything that I have said, I do feel that this game has a lot of potential for the right people. It may not be for me, but at times I have seen myself going back for a little bit more. And that is a good starting point for me because if it sinks the teeth in a little bit, then it's done the job right. This is a game that I want to love, but the points that I've talked about today is really stopping me from loving the game as much as I really think I would have. But what I want to know is, well, if you've played Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince, what were your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like what you're hearing and seeing on the channel, please help me grow it by liking, sharing and subscribing. Now once again, thank you to Square Enix for providing me with a review copy of Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince for Nintendo Switch. It has been greatly appreciated. This has been John, aka Chicken Fillets, and until next time, tatty bye!